God's chosen ones, prepare someone special, is being sent to you with a divine message. Have you ever felt like you're screaming into silence while everyone else seems to hear God's voice crystal clear? Have you wondered why your prayers feel like they hit the ceiling and bounce back, while others testify of miraculous breakthroughs? Have you questioned whether God has forgotten your address, lost your phone number, or simply moved on to more worthy candidates? Stop right there. Breathe. What if I told you that your silence wasn't abandonment, it was preparation? What if your waiting wasn't punishment, it was positioning? What if every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every moment you felt invisible was actually heaven's way of preparing you for this exact moment? Because right now, as you watch this, someone special is being dispatched from the throne room of God with a message that has your name written on it, not metaphorically, literally. This isn't coincidence. This is divine orchestration. You've been walking with a silent knock at your spirit's door, a restless, stirring, an unexplainable knowing that something is shifting, that persistent feeling that you're on the edge of something monumental. And now, beloved chosen one, that door opens. For months, maybe years, you've felt spiritually homeless, like you're speaking a language nobody understands, carrying a weight nobody sees, walking a path nobody recognizes. You've questioned your calling, doubted your worth, wondered if you misheard God's voice. But what if the isolation was incubation? What if the delay was divine timing? What if your season of hiddenness was heaven's way of protecting what's about to be revealed? Right now, comment 777 if you feel something electric stirring in your chest. Let heaven and every algorithm know you're here, you're listening, you're ready, because this isn't just another message. This is your spiritual summons. I need to pause here and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let that support flow as led by the Spirit. Here's what's happening in the unseen realm. Heaven's war room has been strategizing over your life. Angels have been assigned, doors have been unlocked, and someone, a divine messenger, a kingdom connector, a God-ordained relationship is being sent to you with instructions that will change everything. But here's the catch. This messenger won't look like what you expect. They won't arrive with fanfare. And if you're not spiritually alert, you might miss them entirely. By the end of this message, you will understand exactly who is being sent to you, why now, what message they carry, and most importantly, what you must do to prepare for their arrival. Because, chosen one, your season of waiting is over. Your time of preparation is complete. And heaven is about to introduce you to the person who holds the key to your next chapter. The question is, are you ready to receive them? Why does it feel like God answers everyone's prayers but yours? Why have you watched others walk into their breakthrough while you're still standing at the same crossroads you were at 5 years ago? Why does it seem like heaven has a VIP list and somehow your name got lost in the mail? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. That crushing weight of being overlooked, that suffocating silence when you've cried out until your voice was raw, that devastating loneliness of feeling spiritually invisible while others testify of God's miraculous interventions. It wasn't punishment, it was protection. You see, while you've been questioning if God forgot about you, heaven has been orchestrating the most intricate rescue mission of your life. Every tear you've shed in secret, every night you've fallen asleep wondering if tomorrow would bring the answer, every moment you felt like you're drowning in delay while others sail past, none of it was wasted. None of it was random, and none of it was rejection. Psalm 91:1 reveals a profound truth. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. You weren't forgotten. You were hidden. There's a massive difference between being abandoned and being protected under his wing. Think about this for a moment. When a mother eagle senses danger approaching, she doesn't abandon her young. She covers them with her wings, creating a shelter so secure that predators can't even detect them. From the outside, it looks like emptiness. But underneath those wings, life is being preserved, strengthened, prepared for the moment when it's safe to soar. That's been your story, dear one. You haven't been buried alive in obscurity. You've been planted in the secret place, hidden under his protection, because what God is preparing to birth through you is so valuable, so powerful, so kingdom-shaking that it required a supernatural incubation period. But let's be honest about the pain. Let's acknowledge what this waiting has cost you. You've watched friends get promoted while you stayed in the same position. You've seen others find love while you questioned if you'd ever be chosen. You've witnessed miracles happen for everyone except you, until you started wondering if you're somehow spiritually defective. You've whispered desperate prayers in empty rooms. God, did I miss my turn? Did I do something wrong? Why does everyone else seem to have a direct line to heaven while I'm getting a busy signal? You felt the sting of being passed over, overlooked, forgotten by a world that seems to celebrate everyone's breakthrough but yours. The enemy has whispered lies during those 3 a.m. moments when sleep wouldn't come and peace felt like a foreign concept. He's told you that your best years are behind you, that you've missed your window, that God has moved on to younger, more qualified candidates. He's convinced you that your silence means rejection, that your delay means denial, that your hiddenness means you're not worthy of being seen. But what if I told you that every closed door was actually God protecting you from settling for less than his best? What if every no you received was heaven redirecting you away from counterfeits and toward the authentic? What if every delay was actually divine timing, ensuring that when your moment comes, you'll be so prepared, so refined, so aligned that your breakthrough will be undeniable? You've been like a seed beneath the soil, forgotten by the world above, but not by the God who planted you. To the casual observer, a buried seed looks dead, discarded, done for. But beneath that dark earth, something miraculous is happening. Roots are growing deep, strength is building. Life is preparing to burst forth with such power that it will crack through concrete if necessary. The world wrote you off as buried, but God knows you were planted. The world called your season barren, but heaven called it preparation. The world labeled your waiting as waste, but the Almighty orchestrated it as wisdom. Here's what you need to understand. Your isolation wasn't rejection, it was selection. You were separated from the crowd, not because you weren't good enough, but because you were being prepared for something too important to be rushed, too significant to be shared, too powerful to be exposed prematurely. Consider Joseph, forgotten in prison for years after interpreting dreams with perfect accuracy. Did God forget him? God was positioning him. When Pharaoh needed a dream interpreted, only Joseph was ready. Not because he was lucky, but because he was prepared through years of hidden faithfulness. Think about David, anointed as king but sent back to tend sheep in obscurity. Was God confused about the timing? God was developing in David the heart of a shepherd king, someone who would fight for his people because he understood what it meant to protect the vulnerable. Your season of hiddenness has been developing something in you that the world desperately needs but doesn't know it's missing. You've been cultivated in the secret place because what's about to emerge from you requires a level of spiritual maturity that only comes through pressure, patience, and divine processing. The tears you've cried weren't just emotional release, they were liquid prayers, watering the seeds of your destiny. The loneliness you've endured wasn't just isolation, it was intimacy with the one who knows you better than you know yourself. The silence you've experienced wasn't God's absence, it was his presence protecting you from premature exposure. And now, chosen one, the season is shifting. The waiting is transitioning into walking. The hiddenness is about to become revelation. Someone special is being sent to you, not because God suddenly remembered you exist, but because heaven's perfect timing has finally aligned with earth's desperate need for what you carry. If you've ever whispered, "Why me, Lord?" in the dark, if you've ever questioned whether your pain had purpose, if you've ever wondered if your waiting would ever end, raise your hand in the comments. Let the universe know you're ready to understand that your darkest season was actually heaven's way of preparing you for your brightest dawn. Because what's coming next will make every tear worth it, every delay make sense, and every moment of hiddenness pale in comparison to the glory that's about to be revealed through you. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every romantic fairy tale you've ever believed about divine connections. This isn't about finding your other half. You are not half a person waiting to be completed. You are a whole vessel, prepared by fire, shaped by trials, refined by waiting. And God is not sending you a bandage for your loneliness. He's sending you a partner for your purpose. Right now, as I speak these words, someone is being divinely positioned in your path. Not to fill a void in your heart, but to walk alongside the fullness of who you've become. John 1:14 tells us, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us." God has always sent his messages wrapped in human form. And beloved, he's doing it again. But here's where most people get it wrong. They're looking for someone to rescue them from their pain, to fix their broken places, to make them feel whole. That's not divine appointment. That's desperation dressed up as destiny. The person coming into your life isn't arriving to heal your wounds. They're coming to witness your victory scars and say, "I see the warrior you've become." Think about Esther. She wasn't chosen as queen because she was broken and needed fixing. She was positioned for such a time as this because she had been prepared. The favor on her life, the strength in her character, the wisdom in her spirit, it was all there before Mordecai ever spoke destiny over her situation. And when the moment came, when the divine assignment revealed itself, she was ready. This is prophecy wrapped in skin, dear one. A messenger, not just a mate. Someone who carries part of your assignment in their DNA, part of your calling in their breath, part of your destiny in their footsteps. But here's what terrifies the enemy about this divine connection. It's not that you'll fall in love. Hell has seen millions fall in love and stay powerless. What terrifies darkness is that you'll fall into alignment. Two people, both complete in Christ, both walking in purpose, both carrying divine assignments when they come together. They don't just multiply their individual strength. They create a spiritual force that hell cannot calculate, cannot predict, cannot stop. The enemy has spent years trying to convince you that you're incomplete, that you're half a person wandering around looking for your missing piece. He's fed you lies about needing someone to validate your worth, to prove your value, to make you feel chosen. But that's the counterfeit. The real thing looks different. The real thing feels different. When God sends someone divinely into your path, you don't feel desperate, you feel destined. You don't feel like you're finally complete. You feel like you've finally found your running partner for the race you were already winning. You don't look at them and think, "Now I can be happy." You look at them and think, "Now we can change the world." This person isn't coming to give you purpose. You already have that. They're coming to walk with you into the fullness of what God has called you to become. They're not your salvation. Christ is your salvation. They're your spiritual accountability partner with a heartbeat. They're your divine assignment with skin on. And here's the part that will make your spirit leap. They're already on their way. Right now, even as you hear these words, divine orchestration is at work. Conversations are happening that will lead to your introduction. Doors are opening that will create your intersection. Hearts are being prepared for recognition. Spirits are being aligned for connection. But beloved, will you recognize them when they come? Because they won't look like your checklist. They won't arrive wrapped in your preferences. They won't match the picture you drew in your mind during those lonely nights when you wondered if God remembered your desire for companionship. They might be older than you expected, or younger than you planned. They might come from a background you never considered, or speak with an accent you never imagined hearing across your breakfast table. They might have scars that tell stories your heart has never read, or dreams that stretch in directions your mind has never traveled. But here's what they will have: the mark of divine preparation, the evidence of God's hand shaping them for this exact moment, this precise intersection, this holy appointment with your destiny. When you meet them, your spirit will recognize what your eyes might question. Your soul will know what your logic might doubt. The signs are already surrounding you. Those random thoughts about companionship that feel different from the old loneliness. That sudden peace about your singleness that surprised you last week. That shift in your prayers from God. Send me someone to God. Prepare me for someone. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. Your season of solitary preparation is ending. The classroom of independence is graduating you. The training ground of self-sufficiency is releasing you into partnership. And the beautiful thing about divine timing is this: when it's right, it's undeniable. But here's my question for you, chosen one. Are you ready to stop looking for someone to complete your story and start recognizing someone who's been written into the same chapter? Are you prepared to release your grip on how you thought this would look and embrace how God has designed this to unfold? Because the signs, they're not coming. They're already here, surrounding you like breadcrumbs leading to a divine encounter that will change everything you thought you knew about love, purpose, and the power of two people walking in unified destiny. And what those signs reveal will absolutely astound you. Listen carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will make you look at the last few weeks, maybe months of your life, completely differently. You see, God doesn't speak in thunderclaps and burning bushes for most of us. He whispers through details so subtle that only those with awakened spirits can detect them. Heaven leaves breadcrumbs, but only the spiritually awake pick them up. And you, dear one, have been walking past divine breadcrumbs, dismissing them as coincidences, writing them off as random thoughts, brushing aside what your spirit was desperately trying to tell you. But today, we're going to connect the dots. Today, you're going to see the pattern, the first sign, the sudden urge to cleanse. Have you felt it? That unexplainable urge to clean your house from top to bottom. Not spring cleaning, this was different. This was urgent, almost compulsive. You found yourself throwing away things you'd kept for years, reorganizing spaces that were perfectly fine, creating room for something you couldn't name. But it wasn't just your physical space, was it? You've been feeling the need to cleanse your spirit too, cutting off toxic relationships that you'd tolerated for years, distancing yourself from conversations that drain your energy, saying no to commitments that once felt obligatory. This isn't you becoming antisocial. This is heaven preparing your environment. When God is about to send someone significant into your life, He first clears the clutter, both physical and spiritual, that would interfere with their purpose. Think about it. Before Jesus entered Jerusalem for His final week, what did He do? He cleansed the temple. He overturned tables, drove out the money changers, and declared, "My house shall be called a house of prayer." Your sudden need to cleanse, that's the Holy Spirit preparing your temple for a divine visitation. The second sign, the recurring dream. Now this one might make you sit up straight. Have you been dreaming about a specific place, a city you've never visited but somehow feels familiar? Or maybe a name keeps appearing in your dreams, on billboards, in random conversations. Your subconscious isn't playing tricks on you. Your spirit is receiving coordinates. God is downloading location data into your spiritual GPS because the person being sent to you is connected to that place, that name, that recurring image. Joseph didn't understand his dreams about sheaves of wheat and bowing stars until he stood before Pharaoh years later. But every dream was a divine preview of his destiny. Your recurring dreams aren't random brain activity, they're prophetic previews of divine connections about to manifest. The third sign, your taste is changing. Here's where it gets really specific, and I need you to pay close attention. Have you noticed your appetite changing? Not for food, for music, for environments, for conversation. Suddenly that worship song you've heard 100 times hits different. You're drawn to scriptures you've never studied before. You're craving deeper conversations about purpose and calling. This isn't you evolving naturally. This is God tuning your frequency to match the person He's sending. When divine connections are about to occur, the Holy Spirit begins aligning your spiritual appetite with theirs. You're being prepared to recognize their spiritual signature when they arrive. The fourth sign: peace that makes no sense. And then there's this one, the peace. Not the peace that comes after resolution, but peace in the middle of unresolved situations. Peace when your bank account is low but you're not panicking. Peace when relationships are unclear but you're not chasing answers. Peace when your future looks uncertain but you're sleeping like a baby. Colossians 3:15 tells us, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace." That supernatural peace isn't denial, it's divine confirmation. God gives peace before the breakthrough, because He knows what's coming even when you don't. This peace is your spirit's way of saying, relax. Help is on the way. The cavalry is coming. The messenger is already en route. But here's what most people miss, where the detective work gets crucial. These signs don't operate independently. They're connected. The cleansing prepares the space. The dreams reveal the connection. The changing appetite aligns your frequency. And the peace confirms that God is orchestrating something beyond your ability to manipulate or control. Drop a comment if one of these signs just clicked for you. Don't ignore that Sturringit's confirmation. You see, most people experience these signs and dismiss them because they don't understand the spiritual mechanics at work. They think God only moves in obvious ways through burning bushes and audible voices. But the truth is, God's most profound work often happens in whispers, in nudges, in gentle redirections that only prepared hearts can perceive. The enemy wants you to miss these signs. He wants you to stay spiritually asleep, to keep dismissing divine breadcrumbs as mere coincidence, because he knows that once you start recognizing God's subtle communication style, you become dangerous to His plans. You become someone who can't be caught off guard, someone who moves with heaven's rhythm instead of earth's chaos. But you're not missing them anymore, are you? Because something is awakening in you right now. Something is clicking into place. You're starting to see the pattern, connect the dots, recognize the divine setup that's been unfolding in your life. And if these signs are manifesting in your life, if you're nodding your head right now, feeling that electric recognition in your chest, then you need to understand something crucial. The person being sent to you isn't coming to entertain you or validate you. They're coming with instructions that will require something from you. The question is, are you prepared for what that message might demand? Listen carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every expectation you've carried about how God moves in your life. The person being sent to you isn't who you think they are. They're not the polished preacher with the perfect smile. They're not the wealthy mentor with all the connections. They're not the charismatic leader who commands every room they enter. The messenger God is dispatching to your life has been refined in the same furnace that tried to destroy you. They know what it feels like to cry until there are no tears left. They understand the weight of carrying dreams that seem too heavy for human hands. They've walked through valleys so dark they questioned if morning would ever come. Yet here's what makes them extraordinary. They emerged from their fire not bitter but better, not hardened but holy, not broken but beautifully rebuilt. Scripture tells us in Isaiah 61:3 that God gives beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning. This person carries that oil, not the shallow happiness that fades with circumstances, but the deep, unshakable joy that has survived every storm hell could throw at it. You see, God doesn't send perfect people to perfect people. He sends wounded healers to wounded warriors. He sends those who've been through the fire to those still walking through flames. Think about it. When Jesus chose His disciples, did He select the religious elite, the wealthy merchants, the educated scholars? He chose fishermen who knew what it meant to cast nets all night and catch nothing. He chose tax collectors who understood rejection. He chose ordinary people with extraordinary scars. And right now, someone with extraordinary scars is walking toward your life. They don't wear their pain like a badge of honor, but they carry their testimony like a torch. They've learned to bless in the same places where they were once cursed. They've discovered how to speak life over the very areas where death once whispered lies. Here's what will shock you about this divine messenger: they won't come with fanfare. No social media announcement of their arrival. No red carpet moment. They'll slip into your life so naturally, so organically, that you might almost miss them. They could be the elderly woman who sits beside you at the coffee shop and somehow knows exactly what to say about your struggling marriage. They might be the maintenance worker who fixes your heating system but ends up fixing your perspective on God's provision. They could be the nurse who cares for your ailing parent and reminds you that God sees every tear you've cried in hospital corridors. This messenger doesn't come to impress you with their success stories. They come to encourage you with their survival stories. But here's where this gets deeper, chosen one. This person has been praying for you before they even knew your name. While you've been asking God, "Where is my help?" they've been asking God, "Who needs my help?" While you've been crying, "Send me someone who understands," they've been declaring, "Use me to help someone understand." Your prayers and their prayers have been ascending to heaven's throne room simultaneously, creating a divine intersection that neither of you could orchestrate in your own strength. In 1 Kings 19, when Elijah was ready to give up, God didn't send him a thunderous miracle. He sent him Elisha, farmer, who was quietly faithful in the field. Elisha wasn't famous. He wasn't flashy. He was simply available. And his availability became the bridge to Elijah's breakthrough. The person coming to you operates with that same spirit. They bless without needing credit. They serve without seeking applause. They pour out wisdom without keeping score of how much they've given away. And here's the revolutionary truth that will change how you receive them. They don't come to fix you. You're not broken. They come to guard your calling. You see, the enemy has been whispering lies, trying to convince you that you're damaged goods, that your failures have disqualified you, that your struggles have made you unusable. But this divine messenger carries a different message. They come to remind you that your scars are not your shame, they're your strength. Your trials were not your termination, they were your training. They come to stand guard over the calling that hell has been trying to steal from you. They come to protect the purpose that fear has been trying to bury. They come to shield the destiny that doubt has been trying to destroy. This person has been walking through their own wilderness, not knowing they were being prepared to guide you through yours. They've been developing spiritual muscles they didn't know they'd need, building faith reserves they didn't know they'd draw from, accumulating wisdom they didn't know they'd pour out. And now, in God's perfect timing, their preparation meets your desperation. Their breakthrough becomes your breakthrough. Their testimony becomes your testimony. But chosen one, here's your responsibility in this divine encounter. You must pray for them now. Right now, as you hear these words, lift your voice and speak blessing over their journey. They're walking toward you even as you listen to this message, and they need your intercession covering their steps. Pray that God gives them strength for the journey. Pray that He protects them from discouragement. Pray that He opens their spiritual eyes to recognize you when they see you, just as He's opening your eyes to recognize them. Because this meeting isn't just about what you'll receive from them, it's about what you'll pour back into their life as well. The question that will determine everything is this: when this messenger arrives, will you be spiritually alert enough to receive them, or will you miss them because they don't match your expectations? Chosen one, let me shatter a comfortable illusion you've been carrying. You think this divine connection coming into your life is about finding your soulmate, don't you? You imagine romantic dinners, quiet conversations, and someone to hold your hand through the twilight years. But what if I told you that thinking is keeping you spiritually small? What if God isn't sending you a companion? He's sending you a co-conspirator in kingdom business. Listen carefully to what the Spirit is revealing. This isn't about candles and chemistry. This is about legacy and covenant. This isn't about finding someone to complete you. It's about joining forces with someone who will amplify what God has already placed within you. You've been praying for love, but God heard your prayer for impact. You've been asking for companionship, but heaven heard your cry for commission. And now, the Almighty is answering both prayers in one divine package that will blow your mind and expand your ministry beyond anything you thought possible at this season of your life. Here's the shocking truth most believers never grasp. God doesn't send relationships to make you comfortable. He sends them to make you dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Deuteronomy 32:30 reveals the mathematics of divine multiplication. How could one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight? Did you catch that? One of you can impact 1,000 lives. But when two of you unite under God's banner, you don't just double your impact, you multiply it by 10. That's not addition, beloved. That's supernatural multiplication. But here's what will shock you even more. You've been preparing for this union your entire life without even knowing it. Every heartbreak refined your compassion. Every disappointment deepened your dependence on God. Every season of loneliness taught you to find your identity in Christ alone. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared for a partnership that requires spiritual maturity, not romantic fantasy. Right now, someone is receiving the same preparation. They're being refined in the same fire, shaped by the same potter's hands, readied for the same divine assignment. And when you two connect, it won't be because you're lonely. It will be because you're loaded with purpose and ready to reload the world with God's glory. This is about legacy, chosen one. While others your age are settling into retirement, you're about to step into the most impactful season of your entire life. Because this union isn't designed for your sunset years, it's engineered for your sunrise ministry. You won't just love together. You will lead together. You won't just dwell together. You will build together. You won't just share meals. You will share mandates. You won't just grow old together. You will grow bold together. Think about this. Moses needed Aaron. Ruth needed Naomi. Aquila needed Priscilla. David needed Jonathan. Paul needed Timothy. Even Jesus chose to send the disciples out 2 by 2. Why? Because heaven understands what hell fears when God-aligned people unite. They become unstoppable forces of transformation. But let me challenge you with something that might make you uncomfortable. Are you ready for this level of partnership? Are you prepared to lay down your comfortable routines for a calling that demands everything? Because this person being sent to you isn't coming to enable your comfort zone, they're coming to explode it. You are not preparing a table for romance, you're building a sanctuary for destiny. You're not decorating a nest for 2 lovebirds. You're constructing a launching pad for kingdom eagles. The enemy has convinced the church that meaningful ministry ends at 65. He's whispered lies that your best days are behind you, that your impact years are over, that you should gracefully fade into the background. But God is about to prove every one of those lies wrong through this divine connection He's orchestrating. This union will birth ministries you never imagined. It will open doors you thought were permanently sealed. It will give you influence in places you never thought you'd reach. Because when 2 seasoned saints join forces under heaven's directive, they carry an authority that shakes both earth and hell. Have you ever wondered why God waited until now to bring this person into your life? Why He didn't send them 20, 30, 40 years ago? Because you weren't ready then. You hadn't been tested enough, refined enough, broken enough, healed enough. You needed every single experience to prepare you for the weight of this calling. And here's the most beautiful part. Your age isn't a liability, it's your greatest asset. You've learned what matters and what doesn't. You've discovered that people's opinions are powerless compared to God's approval. You've been freed from the need to impress anyone except your Creator. This makes you dangerous in the best possible way. If you've ever prayed, God, use me. If you've ever cried out, Lord, let my life count for something eternal. If you've ever whispered, Father, don't let me waste the years I have left this union. is part of his thunderous answer to those prayers. The question that will determine everything about your future is this: will you receive this divine connection as a reward for your faithfulness, or will you embrace it as a commission for your finest hour? Because, chosen one, heaven isn't finished with you yet. In fact, your most important chapter is about to begin. Listen to me carefully, beloved. That crushing loneliness you've carried, that aching void where you thought someone should be, that wasn't emptiness, that was sacred space being carved out for something holy. You see, if the right person had arrived before you were ready, you would have mistaken trauma bonding for true connection. You would have confused desperation with destiny. Your wounded heart would have clung to anyone who showed you a glimpse of kindness, and you would have called it love when it was really just two broken people using each other as band-aids. God knew this. He saw how your heart was hemorrhaging from past betrayals, from family wounds that never healed, from promises that were shattered like glass under your feet. And in his infinite wisdom he said, "Not yet, my child. Not until you understand that another person cannot heal what only I can heal." How many times did you almost settle? How many times did you come dangerously close to making someone else your savior? How many times did you think, maybe this is it, when deep down your spirit was screaming, this isn't right? But something held you back. Something whispered, wait. Something in your soul refused to compromise. That wasn't your insecurity, that was divine protection. That was God's hand, gently pulling you away from relationships that would have diminished you instead of elevating you. James 1-4 says, "Let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing." Perfect work, not rushed work, not desperate work, perfect work. Your heart needed time to learn the difference between connection and codependency. You needed time to discover that you are whole on your own. You needed time to understand that the right person doesn't complete you, they complement the completeness you've already found in Christ. During those silent years, while you wondered if God had forgotten about you, He was performing surgery on your soul. He was removing every lie that said you weren't worthy of real love. He was extracting every fear that said you had to shrink yourself to be accepted. He was healing every wound that made you believe you had to earn affection. Do you remember the nights you cried yourself to sleep, wondering what was wrong with you? Why everyone else seemed to find their person while you remained alone? Those weren't nights of abandonment. Those were nights of refinement. God was burning away everything that wasn't authentically you. You weren't waiting on a person. You were being shaped for a promise. Think about David before he became king. Samuel anointed him in that field, oil running down his young face. And what happened next? Nothing. For years, absolutely nothing. He went back to tending sheep while his brothers went to war. He faced Goliath not as a king, but as a shepherd boy. He was hunted by Saul, lived in caves, was betrayed by friends. But every single moment was preparation. Every sheep he protected prepared him to protect a nation. Every stone he threw at wild animals prepared him for that one stone that would fell a giant. Every night alone in the wilderness prepared him to lead from a place of strength, not neediness. Your waiting season did the same thing. It taught you to be alone without being lonely. It showed you that your value doesn't depend on someone else's validation. It revealed that you can survive anything because the God who created the universe lives inside you. Romans 8:28 declares, "And we know that all things work together for good, to them that love God, to them who are the called according to His purpose. All things, even the rejection, even the heartbreak, even the loneliness that felt like it would swallow you whole." But here's what's about to blow your mind. The person being sent to you now is coming to someone completely different than who you were 5 years ago. They're coming to someone who knows their worth, someone who won't trade their peace for companionship, someone who understands that healthy love multiplies strength instead of dividing it. The you who existed before the waiting wouldn't have been ready for who's coming. You would have sabotaged it with insecurity. You would have suffocated it with neediness. You would have destroyed it with the very wounds that have now become your wisdom. Can you see it now? The divine orchestration, the perfect timing, the way every tear you cried was watering the soil of your character, the way every no was protecting you from relationships that would have stunted your growth. Every person who walked away cleared the path for the one who's been praying for someone exactly like you. Every door that closed was God saying, I have something better. Every delay was God saying, wait until you're strong enough to handle what I'm about to give you. You thought you were being punished, but you were being prepared. You thought you were being overlooked, but you were being positioned. You thought you were behind schedule, but you were right on time for a divine appointment that's about to change everything. Right now, type these words in the comments. I wasn't being punished, I was being prepared. Say it out loud. Let your soul hear it. Let heaven witness your declaration, because acknowledging this truth opens the door to receive what's been waiting for you to be ready. The waiting is over, chosen one, but more importantly, the preparation is complete, and the person heaven is sending, they're going to marvel at who you've become. Listen to me, chosen one. Right now, in this very second, someone is walking toward your destiny, not casually strolling, not meandering through life. They are being divinely guided, supernaturally directed, heaven sent with precision that would make a GPS jealous. But here's what's going to shake your understanding. They're not coming from your past, they're coming from your future. Let that penetrate your spirit for a moment. Every person you've lost, every relationship that failed, every door that slammed shut, wasn't the universe being cruel, it was heaven being surgical. God was clearing the path, removing the counterfeits, the distractions, the almost right connections, so that when the real one arrives, there's no confusion. You see, in the spirit realm, your souls have already met. Before your eyes lock across a room, before your paths cross at that coffee shop, before that unexpected phone call comes, your spirits shook hands in heaven's war room. This meeting was scheduled before you were born, written in God's books before time began. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. God didn't just know you, He knew who you would need. He knew what connection would unlock your next level. He knew which relationship would activate dormant gifts, heal ancient wounds, and catapult you into your true purpose. But here's where it gets controversial, where it challenges everything you thought you knew about divine timing. You've been praying for this person while resisting the very process that's preparing you to receive them. You've been asking God to send someone while rejecting the refinement that makes you ready. You've been crying out for your Adam, your Eve, your Jonathan, your Ruth, while fighting the wilderness that's stripping away everything that would sabotage that sacred connection. Think about it. How many times have you looked back and said, thank God that didn't work out? How many almosts were actually heaven's protection? How many closed doors were God's way of saying, not yet, not them, not this way? Your messenger is coming with something specific. They're not arriving empty-handed. They carry a word from God that will shift your entire trajectory. They hold a key that unlocks a door you didn't even know existed. They possess a piece of your puzzle that you've been searching for in all the wrong places. But listen carefully, this person won't fit your list. They won't match your expectations. They won't arrive in the package you ordered. God's messengers rarely do. When God sent Samuel to anoint the next king, he looked at Eliab and thought, surely this is the one. But God said, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. The real king was still tending sheep, overlooked by everyone except heaven. Your divine messenger might be the person you walked past 100 times. They might be disguised as ordinary when they're actually extraordinary. They might appear broken when they're actually being broken open to pour out exactly what your soul needs. Here's the urgency that's gripping my spirit right now. Time is collapsing. The gap between prayer and manifestation is shrinking. What used to take years is now happening in months. What used to take months is now happening in weeks. The acceleration is so intense that if you're not spiritually alert, you'll miss the very thing you've been praying for. Daniel prayed, and the angel was dispatched immediately, but it took 21 days to break through spiritual warfare to deliver the answer. Your answer has been in transit. It's been fighting through opposition, pushing past delays, pressing through every force that tried to abort this divine appointment. And now, the breakthrough is imminent. But here's what will determine whether you recognize them or not. Your spiritual frequency. If you're still vibrating at the level of your pain, you'll miss the one coming with your healing. If you're still operating from your wounds, you'll reject the one carrying your wholeness. This is why the waiting wasn't wasted. Every tear purified your vision. Every disappointment refined your discernment. Every broken heart enlarged your capacity to recognize real love when it arrives. Romans 8:28 promises that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. That includes every heartbreak, every betrayal, every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if you'd ever find your person. It was all preparation for this moment of recognition. Your spirit is about to say, "There you are. I've been waiting for you." Not because they're perfect, but because they're perfectly assigned to your destiny. Not because they complete you, you're already complete in Christ, but because they complement the mission God has placed on your life. This is not about waiting anymore. It's about walking in alignment. The door between the natural and supernatural is wide open. The veil between prayer and manifestation is paper thin. The distance between your current reality and your divine destiny is one decision away. Will you step through? Will you release the death grip on what didn't work to embrace what's about to work magnificently? Will you stop mourning the relationships that ended and start celebrating the one that's beginning? Will you quit rehearsing your pain and start preparing for your promise? The universe is holding its breath, waiting for your declaration. Heaven is ready to release what's been held in escrow until this moment. Angels are standing by to execute orders that have been signed and sealed, waiting only for your spiritual alignment. Type today's date in the comments as your declaration. I align, I receive, I am ready. Because ready or not, they're coming. The question isn't if it's when you'll have the spiritual eyes to see them when they arrive. Chosen one, let me ask you something that might shake you to your core. Have you noticed that the things that used to excite you now feel empty? That the conversations that once energized you now drain your very soul? That the relationships you fought to maintain suddenly feel like borrowed clothes that no longer fit your transformed body? This isn't depression. This isn't you becoming antisocial. This is divine realignment happening in real time. You see, when God is preparing to send someone special into your life, He first creates space. And that space is created by removing what no longer serves your destiny. You're not losing things, beloved. You're shedding layers. Like a prophet stepping out of borrowed armor that was never meant for their true calling. Think about it. When did you last feel genuine peace in a place that used to stress you out? When did you last find yourself turning off the television because the noise felt invasive to your spirit? When did you last feel an overwhelming urge to clean your house, clear your closets, release possessions that once held meaning but now feel like spiritual clutter? That's not spring cleaning. That's prophetic preparation. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes 3:1, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Your spirit knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. It's preparing for an arrival, an encounter, a divine appointment that requires you to be spiritually unencumbered. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. This internal shift you're experiencing isn't random emotional turbulence. It's supernatural sensitivity awakening. You're beginning to discern at levels you've never operated in before. That's why certain people suddenly feel heavy to be around. That's why certain places make your spirit recoil. That's why certain conversations leave you feeling spiritually violated. Your discernment is sharpening because someone is coming who operates on a frequency you've never encountered before. And heaven is tuning your spiritual antenna to receive their signal clearly. Let me get uncomfortably specific with you. Have you found yourself pulling back from people who drain your energy, even if they're family? Have you stopped explaining yourself to people who clearly don't understand your journey? Have you begun setting boundaries that feel harsh but necessary for your spiritual survival? That's not you becoming mean. That's you becoming mature. Spiritually mature enough to recognize that not everyone can go where God is taking you. Drop A in the comments if you've felt that sudden shift, even in silence. Because I need you to understand you're not imagining this transformation, you're experiencing it. Jesus himself withdrew from crowds when he needed to prepare for divine encounters. Luke 5:16 tells us, "And he withdrew himself into the wilderness and prayed." Even the Son of God understood that sacred preparation requires sacred separation. But here's what's really happening. Your spirit is being recalibrated to recognize divine messengers. Because the person God is sending to you won't come wearing a spiritual name tag. They might look ordinary. They might arrive through unexpected circumstances. They might even challenge everything you thought you knew about how God works. That's why your discernment had to be heightened first. That's why toxic relationships had to be removed from your circle. That's why spiritual clutter had to be cleared from your environment. Because when this divine messenger arrives, you need to be operating from a place of clarity, not confusion. Think about Mary when the angel Gabriel appeared to her. Scripture doesn't record her being surrounded by chaos or distracted by meaningless relationships. She was in a place of spiritual availability, ready to receive what heaven was about to announce. Your sudden need for solitude. That's not loneliness, that's preparation for divine visitation. Your growing intolerance for superficial conversations. That's not antisocial behavior, that's your spirit refusing to settle for anything less than kingdom connection. Your increasing sensitivity to environments and energy. That's not being dramatic, that's prophetic awareness awakening. But let me warn you about something. The closer you get to this divine encounter, the more the enemy will try to convince you that you're losing your mind. He'll whisper that you're being too picky, too selective, too spiritual. He'll use well-meaning people to tell you that you're changing too much, expecting too much, becoming too isolated. Don't you dare listen to that lie. When Gideon was chosen by God, the angel didn't find him surrounded by a crowd. He was alone, threshing wheat in a winepress, hidden from his enemies. When Moses encountered the burning bush, he was alone in the wilderness, tending sheep. When Elijah heard the still small voice of God, he was alone in a cave, away from the noise and chaos. Divine encounters require divine preparation, and divine preparation often looks like divine isolation to those who don't understand the process. Your spirit is shifting because someone is shifting toward you. Your environment is changing because your assignment is changing. Your relationships are being filtered because your destiny requires a different caliber of connection. The question that should be burning in your chest right now is this: if God is preparing you this intensely for someone's arrival, what kind of message are they carrying? What kind of impact will this encounter have on your life? And most importantly, are you spiritually positioned to receive what heaven is about to deliver through them? Because, beloved, when divine messengers arrive, they don't come to maintain your status quo. They come to elevate your reality. They come to shift your trajectory. They come to unlock dimensions of your calling that have been waiting for this exact moment of preparation. The shift in your spirit isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something divine is right on schedule for you. Beloved chosen one, I need you to stop right here and let this truth penetrate every fiber of your being. You were not chosen just to be loved. That's where most people get it wrong. They think being chosen means getting a divine hug, a spiritual pat on the head, a heavenly comfort blanket. But that's not your story. You were chosen to carry fire. You were chosen to unlock destinies that have been padlocked by generational trauma. You were chosen to break curses that have been strangling bloodlines for decades. You were chosen to walk into rooms where hope has been suffocated and breathe life back into dead dreams. But here's what nobody told you about carrying fire: it burns. It burns away everything that isn't authentic, everything that isn't aligned, everything that isn't appointed by heaven. And that burning, that scorching process you've been through, that wasn't punishment, that was preparation. Every betrayal that nearly broke you, that was permission to trust God alone. Every financial crisis that brought you to your knees, that was permission to discover supernatural provision. Every relationship that crumbled in your hands, that was permission to understand that your worth isn't determined by who stays, but by who sent you. You've been asking God why your path has been so brutal, why others seem to glide while you've had to crawl through broken glass. Let me tell you why. Because average assignments don't require extraordinary preparation. Ordinary missions don't demand devastating refinement. Surface-level callings don't need soul-deep transformation. But you're not carrying an ordinary assignment. Every delay in your life wasn't God forgetting about you, it was heaven drafting your scroll. Every season where you felt invisible wasn't abandonment, it was incubation. Every moment you wondered if you'd heard God wrong wasn't doubt, it was the divine waiting for the perfect moment to reveal why you've been hidden. Isaiah 6-8 records the moment when God asked, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" And the prophet responded, "Here I am, send me." But notice what happened before that moment. Isaiah had been broken by a vision of God's holiness. He cried out, "Woe is me, for I am undone." The fire had to purify him before he could carry the message. Your breaking wasn't your disqualification. Your breaking was your preparation for deployment. Right now, as you listen to these words, heaven's war room is buzzing with activity over your life. Angels are receiving marching orders. Doors that have been sealed are getting their unlocking mechanisms activated. And someone, a divine connection, a kingdom assignment, a God-ordained encounter is being positioned to intersect with your path. But here's the shocking truth most believers never realize. The divine connection isn't your destination. The divine connection is your doorway. This person being sent to you isn't coming to complete you, rescue you, or fix you. You've already been completed by Christ, rescued by the cross, and fixed by the resurrection. They're coming to activate you. They're coming to hand you the key to the next dimension of your calling. They're coming to say, "It's time." Psalm 37-23 declares, "The steps of a good person are ordered by the Lord, not suggested, not recommended, ordered, like a divine military command." And right now, your next steps are being ordered, not by your comfort, but by your calling. You see, most people spend their entire lives trying to get to a place where they feel safe, secure, and settled. But chosen ones are called to live in the tension between comfort and commission. You're called to step into spaces that make your flesh nervous, but make your spirit come alive. This divine messenger coming to you, they're not coming with a message that will make your life easier. They're coming with a message that will make your life matter. They're coming with an assignment that will stretch you beyond your current capacity, challenge you beyond your present understanding, and elevate you beyond your wildest imagination. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. When they arrive, you'll have to choose. Will you stay in the familiar pain of your current season, or will you step into the unfamiliar territory of your divine assignment? Will you cling to the identity that trauma gave you, or will you embrace the identity that heaven is calling out of you? Because the messenger isn't just coming with instructions, they're coming with an invitation to step beyond survival and into significance. They're coming to tell you that your season of preparation is over and your season of deployment has begun. But deployment requires deployment. It requires you to say what Isaiah said, "Here I am, send me." Not "Here I am, comfort me," not "Here I am, fix me," but "Here I am, send me." Heaven is watching what you do next. The angels assigned to your case are leaning forward. The demons that have been tormenting your lineage are trembling, because they know something you're just beginning to understand. Your activation doesn't just change your life, it changes the spiritual atmosphere around everyone you touch. The divine connection wasn't a destination, it was a doorway. And now, heaven is watching what you do next. So I'm asking you right now, are you ready to stop just being loved and start carrying fire? Are you ready to stop just surviving and start setting captives free? Are you ready to stop asking God why and start asking God where? Comment "Send me" if you're ready to step beyond comfort and into calling, because your messenger is coming and they need to know you're ready to receive what heaven is about to release through your life. Listen to me very carefully. Chosen one, I need to tell you something that your pastor might not have the courage to say, something the prosperity preachers won't touch, something that might shake you to your core but will ultimately set you free. The divine messenger coming to you? They're not arriving on a red carpet. The sacred path you're walking? It's not lined with rose petals. And that calling burning in your chest? It's going to cost you everything you thought you wanted to keep you comfortable. But here's the truth that will revolutionize your understanding. Your pain is not proof that God has abandoned you. Your struggle is not evidence that you've missed His voice. Your wilderness season is not a detour from your destiny, it is your destiny being forged in the fire. You see, every chosen one in Scripture walked through hell before they touched heaven. Moses spent 40 years in the backside of nowhere before he saw the burning bush. David hid in caves, running for his life, before he touched the crown. Joseph rotted in prison, falsely accused and forgotten, before he stood before Pharaoh. Jesus himself sweat blood in Gethsemane before he conquered death. Why do we think our path should be any different? You've been walking through wilderness with fire in your bones, but you're not lost. You're being led by cloud and flame. The Israelites couldn't see the GPS coordinates. They couldn't Google map their way to the promised land. All they had was a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. And when they followed it, even through the desert, even through the impossible, they reached their inheritance. Right now, you might be staring at your bank account wondering how you're going to make it through this month. You might be sitting in that doctor's office waiting for test results. You might be watching your children make choices that break your heart. You might be lying awake at 3 a.m., wondering if you're strong enough for another day. And the enemy whispers, if God really loved you, would He let you suffer like this? But I'm here to tell you that suffering and love are not opposites in God's economy. They're partners. Whom the Lord loves, He disciplines, Hebrews tells us. Not because He's cruel, but because He's committed to your greatness. This path is narrow, but it is yours. There will be days when the one being sent to you feels 1,000,000 miles away. Days when you question if you heard correctly, if you're delusional, if you're clinging to false hope. There will be mornings when getting out of bed feels like climbing Mount Everest. There will be nights when your prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling. But these are not setbacks, beloved. These are sacred days. In the wilderness, God strips away everything that's not essential. He removes the props, the crutches, the false securities. He peels back the layers until all that's left is you and Him. And in that raw, exposed place, He whispers your real name. He shows you who you really are when everything else is burned away. This pain is weighty, but it is holy. You think you're being punished, but you're being purified. You think you're being rejected, but you're being refined. Every loss is making room for what's coming. Every closed door is protecting you from what would have destroyed your destiny. Every delay is divine alignment. But let me ask you something that's going to pierce your soul. How many times have you been tempted to quit? How many times have you looked at your circumstances and said, God, this is too hard. I can't do this anymore. How many times have you been ready to throw in the towel, walk away from your calling, settle for a smaller life? The enemy is banking on your surrender. Hell is holding its breath, waiting for you to give up 3 steps before your breakthrough. Satan knows that if he can get you to quit now, you'll never discover the power that was always inside you. But what if I told you that every champion of faith felt exactly like you do right now? What if I told you that your breaking point is actually your breakthrough point? What if I told you that the pressure you're feeling isn't meant to crush you, it's meant to transform you into a diamond? We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed, Paul declares in 2 Corinthians. This isn't motivational speaking. This is prophetic declaration over your life. The messenger coming to you has walked this same fire. They've tasted this same bitter cup. They've wrestled with these same demons. That's exactly why they're qualified to speak into your situation. Heaven doesn't send comfortable messengers to uncomfortable people. God sends wounded healers to wounded souls. This path is narrow, but it is yours. This pain is weighty, but it is holy. And on the other side of this wilderness, there's a version of you that you've never met. A version that doesn't flinch at giants. A version that speaks to storms and they calm down. A version that walks into rooms and atmospheres shift. A version that carries such authority that hell trembles and heaven applauds. But that version can only be born in the fire. That version can only emerge from the pressure. That version can only rise from the ashes of who you used to be. If you've been tempted to give up, if you've been ready to quit, if you've been wondering if God has forgotten you, I need you to type 4 words right now. I still believe. Let the heavens record it. Let the angels write it down. Let your faith speak louder than your circumstances, because the messenger is closer than you think, and they're carrying the key to your next chapter. But first, you must survive this sacred fire. Listen carefully, chosen one. The moment you stepped into divine alignment, you painted a target on your back. And if you're wondering why life suddenly got harder after you said yes to God, why the attacks intensified, why people turned against you, why doors that should have opened slammed shutlet, me tell you something that will rock your world. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on decoys. He doesn't attack what's powerless. He doesn't assault what's irrelevant. The devil doesn't send his finest demons after church benchwarmers. No, beloved, he reserves his most vicious campaigns for those carrying heaven's blueprints. The louder the opposition, the closer the outpouring. You've been asking God, why is this happening to me? The real question is, what am I carrying that hell is so desperate to stop? Look at Jesus in Matthew chapter 4, fresh from his baptism, heaven's voice still echoing, "This is my beloved Son," and where does the Spirit lead him? Straight into the wilderness, 40 days of fasting, 40 nights of isolation. And then Satan shows up with his most sophisticated temptations. Why? Because heaven had just announced the Messiah, and hell knew what was coming. Your wilderness isn't punishment, it's preparation for warfare. Your isolation isn't abandonment, it's divine boot camp. Every attack you've endured has been building spiritual muscle you didn't know you needed. But here's what most believers miss. You're not fighting for victory, you're fighting from victory. The cross already settled the outcome. Calvary wasn't a suggestion, it was a declaration. When Jesus said, "It is finished," he didn't mean "I hope this works out." He meant game over, check and mate. You have authority, not just access. Too many of God's people are walking around with heaven's credit card, but living like spiritual welfare recipients. You're not begging God for breakthrough, you're enforcing what he already decreed. Remember Paul and Silas in Acts 16, beaten with rods, feet fastened in stocks, thrown into the deepest part of the prison. Their backs were bleeding, their bodies broken, but at midnight at the darkest hour they weren't complaining. They were praising. They weren't praying for escape. They were declaring God's faithfulness. And what happened? The earth shook. Chains fell off. Prison doors burst open. Midnight praise unlocks supernatural power. When you worship in your worst moment, heaven takes notice. When you declare God's goodness while surrounded by hell's garbage, you become dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. But let me shock you with this truth. The very people trying to destroy you are actually confirming your calling. Opposition is often God's way of letting you know you're on the right track. When Pharaoh increased the workload on the Israelites, It wasn't because they were failing, it was because their deliverance was imminent. Your haters aren't your problem, they're your proof. Every person who can't stand your peace, who's irritated by your joy, who's threatened by your favor, is actually providing testimony that something divine is operating through your life. The enemy has been studying you, beloved. He knows your weaknesses, your triggers, your breaking points. He's been mapping your emotional territory, cataloging your fears, documenting your past failures. But here's what he didn't count on. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. You carry the same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead. Let that sink in. The same power that spoke galaxies into existence lives inside your mortal frame. The same authority that calmed storms, opened blind eyes, and raised the dead flows through your bloodstream. Stop fighting like you're hoping to win. Start fighting like you already won. Stop praying like you're trying to convince God. Start declaring like you know His will. Stop walking like you're hoping for favor. Start moving like you know you're already blessed. The warfare is real, but so is your weaponry. 2 Corinthians 10:4 says, "Your weapons aren't carnal, they're mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds." Every time you choose faith over fear, you demolish demonic architecture. Every time you forgive instead of retaliate, you destroy the enemy's legal ground. Every time you praise through pain, you activate heaven's army. Your opposition isn't random, it's strategic. But your victory isn't accidental, it's guaranteed. Hell is trembling because they can see what's coming. They can sense the shift, they can feel the acceleration, and they know their time to stop you is running out. The messenger being sent to you, they're not coming to a victim, they're coming to a victor. They're not bringing rescue, they're bringing reinforcement. You're not being saved, you're being promoted to general. But here's the catch. Generals don't get to stay comfortable. Generals don't get to remain hidden. Generals don't get to avoid the front lines. The authority you're stepping into comes with responsibility. The power you're receiving demands courage. The calling you're accepting requires everything. So here's my question. Are you ready to stop fighting like prey and start moving like a predator? Are you prepared to stop surviving spiritual warfare and start dominating it? Because the person being sent to you sees a warrior, not a warrior. They see a kingdom enforcer, not a spiritual refugee. Type, "I am armed" if you refuse to be shaken. Because what's coming next will require everything hell has tried to take from you, and heaven is about to return it with interest. Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred moment together, let me remind you of the 3 truths that must anchor your soul. First, your silence wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every season of waiting was heaven positioning you for this divine appointment. Second, the warfare you faced wasn't punishment, it was proof. The enemy only attacks what threatens his kingdom, and your very existence terrifies the forces of darkness. Third, someone special is being sent to you, not because you're broken and need fixing, but because you're ready, and heaven knows it. You are not walking this path alone. Even in your most isolated moments, when it felt like your prayers were hitting the ceiling and bouncing back, God was orchestrating every detail of your story. The same God who counted every tear you cried in secret is now aligning every blessing you'll receive in public. And right here, right now, there's a community of believers standing with you, warriors who've walked similar valleys, survivors who understand your struggle, intercessors who are lifting your name to the throne room of God. But I need to ask you something before we part. When this divine messenger arrives in your life, and they will arrive, will you recognize them? Will you be spiritually alert enough to receive what they're carrying? Will you have the courage to step into the uncomfortable assignment they bring? Because destiny doesn't knock twice, and divine opportunities don't wait for convenient timing. Let me pray over you right now, and I want you to receive this not as mere words, but as a prophetic declaration over your life. Father God, I place my hands on the shoulders of every chosen one watching this message. Right now, in this sacred moment, I speak peace to their troubled hearts and strength to their weary souls. You see them, Lord, the ones who've cried themselves to sleep wondering if you've forgotten them, the ones who've fought battles no one else could see, the ones who've remained faithful even when faith felt impossible. I pray that you would open their spiritual eyes to recognize the messenger you're sending. Give them divine discernment to see past natural appearances and perceive supernatural assignments. Remove every veil of doubt, every cloud of confusion, every whisper of unworthiness that has clouded their vision. Lord, bless their finances, heal their bodies, restore their relationships, and accelerate their purpose. Let favor follow them like a shadow. Let opportunities find them like rain finds dry ground. Let breakthrough chase them down like the dawn chases away the night. And Father, as they wait for this divine connection, help them remember they are not forgotten, not forsaken, not invisible to you. You know their address. You have their phone number, and you've never stopped working on their behalf. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. Beloved, I want you to know something. Your presence here today wasn't accidental. Out of millions of videos you could have watched, you chose this one. That's not coincidence. That's divine guidance. You stayed until the end because something in your spirit recognized truth. Now I'm asking you to do something powerful. In the comments below, share one word that describes how you're feeling right now. Just one word. Let this community know where your heart is. And if this message stirred something deep within you, I want you to type, I receive it. So we can agree together in faith. Don't keep this to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their season